What is something that you actually remember being new technology, but is now obsolete?
Not exactly tech, but interactive encyclopedias on CDs. I remember being amazed as a kid, so much information, sound clips, music, images, even videos and easy search. Now you just have all of that and so much more on Wiki.
Infrared to send files from one phone to another.
At some point in the late 90s, Best Buy had a Black Friday sale on writable DVDs. I bought 200. I have about 150 of them left.
CD players, especially in cars. I thought the best thing ever would be to have a CD changer in my car. Now my car doesn't even have a CD player.
Caller ID boxes. I used to think we were so fancy since we had the little box with the screen that showed name and number before anyone else we knew had one.
Zip drives. In college we had to try to save all our massive Photoshop files to max 500 megabytes zip disks.
Dedicated MP3 players. Going from a Walkman to a Discman to an MP3 player was huge. I can have all my albums on this one device. These days people look at me funny for not just using my phone. But the iPod Classic is still the best music device I've ever found.
T9 texting. I learned an entirely new way of relaying language and will never use it again.
I specifically remember sitting on the living room floor with my brother playing Ocarina of Time on the N64 and saying to each other, man, graphics can't get better than this.
So much. One that rings a bell is I remember watching a tech show about a new thing that had just being invented and was said to be indestructible replacement for tapes. Called the CD.
CD players. I remember how much better these things were. It was amazing. Put the tape in the tape player, plug in the power to the cigarette lighter, gently set the CD player on a folded towel or pile of shirts, and listen to the CD skip every time you hit the tiniest of bumps.
Flip phones. I remember when the Motorola Razr was cutting edge.
Laserdisc. Gigantic album-sized CDs, really.
Custom ringtones. It used to be such a huge industry back in the day, and people would actually pay money for beep 8-bit versions of songs to play when people called them. Now most people I know just keep their phones on vibrate or silent and use default ringtones.
Who else remembers the entire camcorder, camera, DSLR section in Best Buy?
I remember when GPS devices came out. That was huge. No more printing out directions, the little machine will direct you. Pretty much immediately the same exact thing was added to smartphones. I bet my dad still has his GPS in his glove box, dusty as all hell.
TiVo. It was a big deal to be able to automatically record shows, and an even bigger deal to be able to skip commercials. Now, we just watch it on demand.
Cordless phones. When they first dropped, it was the newest thing imaginable. Flash forward a few years and no one even has a house phone.
Dial-up internet. I loved being able to do Madlibs, chat with people on IRC or Yahoo, get Mortal Kombat fatalities, and print off naked pictures from Playboy that took me 20 minutes to download. Lol. I was so amazed.
Game Boy Color Sci.
VCRs. I remember when they cost close to $1,000 CDN and were the greatest thing ever.
I hadn't even realized the decline of CDs until I bought a laptop with no CD-ROM.
My dad was super excited the first time he brought a digital camera home for us to play with. It was a brick that took 8 photos and saved them onto a floppy disk. It even came with a floppy disk carry case so you didn't have to worry about losing them.
Digital photo frames. Everyone seemed to have one for about 3 weeks, and now I haven't seen one in about 10 years.
Those £20 phone books delivered every year to your doorstep. They actually had a lot of useful information about local government and community events.
DVDs. I remember everyone moving from VHS to DVD, and my broke ass was delighted because I could score all these cool movies on the cheap for my perfectly functional VCR.
I remember when I was a kid, the rich neighbor down the street installed a satellite dish. Via basic cable, he needed a gigantic frisbee on his roof so that he could access dozens of independent TV channels.
Netscape Navigator, not really a piece of tech, but hey.
My dad says handheld calculators. I was surprised by his answer. I feel like they would have been around much longer than from the childhood of someone that's now in their 50s.
Telephone cards.
The word processor. Like a typewriter with a tiny bit of memory so you could make corrections before it printed the type. Before that it was either strike through or white out. Sort of. Actually I used a computer at school before I ever saw a word processor, but not even my rich friends had one at home. Short-lived because home computers started becoming more common and affordable. Kind of a step back in a way because dot matrix printers look like crap compared to something typed on a word processor.
The curly CFL light bulbs.
When I was in second grade, a kid on my bus was showing off a sheet of paper with movies listed on it. His parents had just gotten a VCR, and him and his brother were being allowed to get one movie each because they were over $100 per tape. Video stores weren't even a thing for another year or two.
Macromedia flash.
Phone cards. You'd buy a phone card so that you could use it in a payphone and never have to worry about having change. They converted half the phone boxes to take them, which must have been a major infrastructure operation. This must have been the 1980s, I think. Now completely forgotten.
I was a very small child when Beta switched to VHS. I remember watching Gem and the holograms on Betamax. I'm so lucky to have been born in the early 80s. I got to see the invention and progress of so many things. Also, cassette tapes, Walkmans and Discmans. Kids today will never play Oregon Trail on a green and black screen or have to hear the annoying dial-up of trying to get your AOL to connect. My grandparents also had a car phone when they first came out. These things seem so corny now, but they were a big deal back in the day. Oh, and not really technology, but something that I remember that is now obsolete is cursive handwriting. And using paper and textbooks in school. Not completely obsolete, but as the school systems become more technology-based, they will be eventually.
Moon boots were supposed to be amazing. Tricked me into exercise for a weekend. Never touched them again.
For people not old enough to remember, CDs were the biggest holy beep. This is awesome technological shift I've ever experienced. From the sound quality and skipping songs to CD-ROM revolutionizing computer gaming. Act. I still think they sound better than streaming, an iPod, and such.
Windows Phone.
Thinking Columbia House CDs were a good deal.
Typewriters. I was so proud to get my first portable. I was going to write a novel. I actually did a course as a teen to learn to use the new electric typewriters. If anyone ever needs to replace a typewriter ribbon, I'm qualified.
MP3 players, specifically the Zune.
This service might technically still exist, but I think it counts. Ringback tones. I was working in the industry when they came out, and I was working in it when I heard one for the last time, too.
Anti-skip CD players.
In the year 2000, I was sitting on a plane as people boarded, watching an episode of Seinfeld on my compact color handheld computer containing an IBM 1GB microdrive. I had recorded the show off my new TiVo DVR and encoded the output to MPEG, saving it to my impressive 1GB microdrive, which was actually a small rotating platter in the format of a flashcard. It was pretty radical stuff for the time, and the businessman that sat next to me shook his head in amazement. I could tell he was thinking, these kids these days, watching TV on a device in their hand. Of course, now that technology is an antique.
I remember getting up early to watch the first space shuttle launch back in 1981.
The Atari 5200 and Laserdiscs.
I remember getting a Nintendo NES in the late 80s. It's hard to explain how amazing it was to have that at home. Now we can use emulators and download all of the games onto a small hard drive. But the act of changing the games and the way they looked and felt. All of that was really great.
Winamp really whipped the llama's ass.
Web TV. An internet box that connected to the phone line and the TV. Internet access without a full-on computer.
My beloved Commodore 64.
When I was a kid, my dad spared no expense by getting a state-of-the-art cordless phone in the house. I felt like I was living a life of royalty when I could walk almost all the way to the street while still being able to talk on the phone.
The amazing ultra-realistic graphics of GTA San Andreas.
I remember when my mom got a PDA for her nursing school in maybe 2004. Everybody thought it was the coolest beep, but as I look back on it now, I don't think it was terribly useful. Lol.
both 8 tracks and cassette tapes.
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more quality content every day.